Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deislayers, and in this video, we're going to discuss and review a topic that we all know has been inbound for a very long period of time, and that is the nerf, yes, I said nerf, to the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl hand cannons. There is no doubt in my mind that all of you already know that these two things are the definition of the pinnacle competitive Crucible rewards, as the only way to obtain them is to of course get them in the competitive playlist. Now many of you are probably asking, alright, well, this may be good and this may be bad, but no matter what, I want to know as to exactly how this nerf is going to be happening. To you, my friends, I say that that's exactly what we're going to discuss in this video. But not just that, we're going to look at the weapons pre and post nerfs and kind of give a side-by-side comparison analysis so that you guys can really see as to how different that they actually are going to be. And then on top of this, I'm going to give you guys another further comparison analysis as to what's going to happen in contrast to, say, the Last Word, the Ace of Spades, the Kindled Orchid, and weapons like that with or without KillClip. And then finally, I'm going to put the cherry on top of the ice cream and say what I personally think should have been done to do this type of nerf, as I think that this overall idea that I have would be far better than what Bungie has proposed. Nonetheless, the only thing left to do is to eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. Yesterday, Bungie came out saying in their TWAB, also known as This Week at Bungie on Bungie.net, stating that they were going to tweak and or tune both the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl to make them more aligned with every single other weapon in the game. To be more precise, here is exactly what they said, and they said that our current plan is to make the Luna's Howl and the Not Forgotten the only 150 RPM precision hand cannons. They will maintain some aspects of their current behavior while taking on the firing speed and damage of the 150 RPM hand cannons. Magnificent Howl will also be adjusted so that it increases only body shot damage, resulting in a 2 headshot, 1 body shot kill. In addition to this, Bungie then states that Magnificent Howl will still give an advantage due to requiring less precision hits for its optimal time to kill. After hearing and reading this, there are two main things that I want you guys to take away from this. Number 1, the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl are still going to be considered precision hand cannons with the rate of fire of 150s, and so this means that they are actually still going to retain their current recoil pattern and direction, but at the same time, they're then going to get the damage values of, say, a Dire Promise or a Midnight Coup or something else like that. Now that you know the first thing I want you to take away from that, the second thing is that all 150 rate of fire hand cannons still require 3 critical headshots to actually obtain their optimal TTK. And so this is still going to hold true for this brand new version of the Lunas and the Not Forgotten. But now you're probably asking yourself, well, how does Magnificent Howl still play into this? The answer to this is that Magnificent Howl is no longer going to need a 3rd critical headshot damage to be higher damage values, simply because the weapon then is already going to 3-tap you no matter what. But on the flip side of this, whenever you happen to land 2 crits and then a body shot, that body shot is still probably going to be doing the exact same amount of damage that it does if it was a critical headshot, and thus you're still going to get that optimal TTK at 0.8 seconds that all 150 rate of fire hand cannons have. All in all, this post-nerf Not Forgotten and Luna's Howl are now going to do 68 points of damage for a crit and 43 points of damage in the body. But when we associate these two values to an optimal TTK and body shot TTK respectively, the weapon's optimal TTK is now going to be at 0.8 seconds and its body shot time to kill is going to be at 1.6 seconds. Understanding this, the very next thing that I want to do for you guys is I want to give you a side-by-side comparison analysis of the pre-nerf Not Forgotten and Lunas versus the post-nerf Not Forgotten and Lunas. And so as you guys can see from right there on screen, we have the pre-nerf data on the left and the post-nerf data on the right. Keep in mind that what you're seeing right there is without proccing Magnificent Howl, and this is then going to assume that with the pre-nerf, you're hitting a critical headshot, then a body shot, a critical headshot, and then a body shot to still actually attain its optimal TTK at 1 second on the dot. However, post-nerf, this is going to be exactly the same as what you have with a Dire Promise or a Midnight Coup or even a Spare Rations, and that's going to be at precisely 0.8 seconds with, of course, 3 critical headshots. As far as the pre and post nerf TTK values are for their body shots, this is only going to be a difference of 0.07 seconds. And so if you were to ask me, that's almost nothing at all, and you're barely ever going to notice that difference. But what you will notice is the massive and distinct difference between when Magnificent Howl is proccing pre-nerf and post-nerf. And so once again, here's all that data right there on the screen, very similarly with the pre-nerf data on the left and the post-nerf data on the right. In this case, now we're going to see a colossal difference in the weapon's optimal TTK, because with Magnificent Howl procced pre-nerf, its optimal TTK is at 0.67 seconds, whereas post-nerf, it's now going to be at 0.8 seconds. The reason that these changes are happening so significantly is because once again, the weapon's rate of fire is being tuned, and currently it's at 180 RPM, but post-nerf it's then going to be at 150, which is making it in line, and thus it's then going to have that slower TTK value. In association with this, I still want everyone to recall and to remember that the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl currently can actually still 2-tap you, and the way in which it does so is if you get 2 body shots, then 2 critical headshots, go into the next Guardian, and thus it can 2-tap and get an optimal TTK at 0.33 seconds. In a post-nerf Not Forgotten / Luna's Howl realm, I'm not sure if this is still going to be the case, but what I will say is that it might be able to do so if you happen to get exactly the same thing by getting 2 body shots, then 2 critical headshots, and maybe it still might be able to continue that damage output on the next Guardian if you happen to land a body shot. Because remember, this Re2 Magnificent Howl is no longer going to give you extra damage for a critical headshot, and it's only going to give you extra damage for body shots and body shots alone. Upon grasping all this information, I think it's now safe to say that you guys firmly understand the key differences between that of the post and the pre-nerf Not Forgotten and Luna's Howl changes. But the very next thing that I want to show you guys is a side-by-side comparison analysis of the post-nerf Not Forgotten / Luna's with that of the Last Word, the Ace of Spades, and the Service Revolver on that very first kill that each one of these things can actually get. As you guys can tell from right here, we have the post-nerf Not Forgotten on the left with the Last Word, Ace of Spades, and Service Revolver ensuing, giving their base TTK values. And so the primary thing that I really want you guys to take away from this is that each one of their optimal TTKs is going to be much different. And so right there we have 0.8, 0.53, 0.87, and 1 second for all those weapons that I just mentioned in order going from left to right. Furthermore, also notice that the Last Word now has the exact same body shot time to kill as the Not Forgotten's optimal time to kill at 0.8 seconds. And that, Deislayers, is an astounding characteristic that has to be mentioned, because this means that we're going to see a lot more Last Words. But not just this. When we do this exact same comparison analysis, but with different weapons, looking specifically at KillClip, we're then going to see even more changes. And so right there on screen, you guys can see exactly the weapons that I'm comparing. Once again on the left, we had the Not Forgotten, but in this case we're looking at its post-nerf with Magnificent Howl. And in addition to this, we then had the Bygones with KillClip, the Kindled Orchid with KillClip and Rampage times 1 or 2, and the Service Revolver with KillClip as our next comparisons. Just like our earlier comparison, the principal thing that I want you to take away from this is the weapon's optimal TTKs when KillClip is active. And so as you guys can tell, the post Not Forgotten with Magnificent Howl is going to be at 0.8 seconds, whereas the Bygones is at 0.53 seconds, the Kindled Orchid is at 0.43 seconds, and the Service Revolver is at 0.67 seconds. Upon hearing and seeing all these values and comparisons, it is clear as day to me that not just the Bygones, but the Kindled Orchid and the Service Revolver and so many other weapons like that of the Last Perdition, when they happen to have KillClip procced, are easily going to give the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl a run for its money. But it's also worth mentioning that the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl can still get that optimal TTK at 0.8 seconds every single time, regardless of whether or not it's the first kill or second kill or third kill or whatever it may be. Having said that, I can't really say one way or the other as to whether or not I agree with this overall change for the Not Forgotten, because if you were to ask me, I would have much rather seen one of 3 changes happen to the game, in particular with that of the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl. First and foremost, I'm not a very big fan of nerfs, and so what I would have liked to have seen instead is an increase across the board for all weapons and their TTK values. But I also know that this is not a very popular opinion among many other Guardians, so my second more realistic scenario that would have been a better fix for this overall nerf is to actually make it so that all hand cannons, I repeat, all hand cannons never have bloom. If Bungie removed bloom, aka ghost bullets, from all other hand cannons in the game, then we would see a ton more weapons currently being used than just that of the Not Forgotten and Luna's Howl. Because not only would we see just those two weapons, but we would certainly see the Service Revolver, the Kindled Orchid, the Ace of Spades, and the list goes on and on and on. And so to all you my friends, I say that I want to hear your guys' opinion about this down in the comment section below. Before you give your response, just think, if this was once again the case, not only would the weapons that I just mentioned still be more prevalent, but all the 110 rate of fire hand cannons, aka the Duke, the Criminal's Dagger, and whatnot, would also be seen a ton more, because those two weapons that I just mentioned could potentially still 2-tap you, and that would then make them very more relevant. But the reason why we don't see them in particular is because the bloom effect is simply so great that those two things cannot be consistent on a regular basis, and thus you simply don't see them. This exact same thought process and logic and reasoning not just applies to the 110s, but also to the 140 and 150 rate of fire hand cannons. But the very next thing that I want to discuss is my next more realistic solution to that of the Not Forgotten and the Luna's Howl nerf. What if Bungie left the Luna's Howl the exact same way that it currently is, still leaving it with the same 3-tapping potential that it currently has, and that same TTK value of 0.67 seconds when you proc Magnificent Howl, all while at the same time keeping it at that same rate of fire with 180 rounds per minute? However, Bungie would certainly have to make a change for the Not Forgotten, and more specifically the Magnificent Howl perk and the way that it functions on that weapon. Because what if it actually did something like this, where if it required critical headshots and critical headshots alone to simply proc that 3-tapping potential, but at the same time it continued for at least 3 seconds from one kill into the next, only proccing when critical headshots were available. Thus, what it would do is it would allow the Magnificent Howl perk on the Not Forgotten to not just 3-tap, but potentially 2-tap from one Guardian into the next, and you could continuously do so. But at the same time, you could not land a single body shot or miss a shot, because as soon as you happen to do so, then that's when Magnificent Howl goes away entirely. And in this sense, not only would it be a buff to the weapon, but at the same time, it would also be a nerf. And ultimately, what it would create is a double-edged sword, aka high-risk, high-reward weapon. If Bungie applied this high-risk, high-reward mentality for the Not Forgotten, but kept this lower-risk or lower-reward mentality for the Luna's Howl, players would still be incentivized not just to go for the Lunas, but also for the Not Forgotten. And that's because having a weapon that has an optimal TTK value at 0.33 seconds on second kill is simply outstanding. But at the same time, you have that high risk of being demolished if you happen to miss one of your critical headshots. In hearing both of those two solutions, I'm very intrigued to hear all your guys' thoughts about what you think about those two things down in the comment section below. And not just that, also let me hear exactly what you guys think about what Bungie is actually doing. And that is just to refresh you, making it so that these weapons are now no longer a 180 rate of fire hand cannon, but a 150 with the associated damage values of the 150 archetype, while simultaneously making these weapons retain their recoil pattern of the 180 rate of fire hand cannons. No matter your opinion or your perspective, I can always say that no matter what, your guys' opinions are always going to be respected. And so have no fear, regardless whatever that comment is, I can certainly say that I'll get back to you, and I'm really looking forward as to exactly what you guys gotta say. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share, comment, like on social media, because you are the greatest. That's pretty much all that I've got for you as of right now, Deislayers. And as always, GG TNT.